Yeah, my name is Kurtis Lockhart. I'm the founder and director of the Africa Urban Lab, which is the first research center at this new university here in Zanzibar called the African School of Economics, Zanzibar. Yeah, so the mission of the Africa Urban Lab, first we want to conduct frontier urban research, and second we want to translate that research into policy action by training the African city builders, urban planners, leaders of tomorrow to harness the growth of cities for human prosperity. Yeah, so a few things on this one. I think in structuring and organizing the Africa Urban Lab, the team, we basically talked to anyone and everyone who would speak to us at the beginning of this about, okay, what is the current curriculum in urban planning and urbanist-related disciplines? What does it look like today? The overwhelming thing we heard from both professors and graduates and employers of these people is a lot of the curriculum is focused on theory throughout the course. And what that meant is a lot of the students were graduating without some of the very key technical skills and operational skills needed to do the day-to-day job of an urban planner in a city that's growing at 3, 4, 5% per year. And so with that feedback, we really structured the Africa Urban Lab, and in particular this professional diploma, which is our first program offering. We really structured it around applied work. We call ourselves a teaching hospital, right? Similar to medical students, where they take 4 years of medical school in the classroom, and then they're paired with a really experienced doctor in a teaching hospital to learn to apply the learnings they just learned in the classroom in the real world. We want to be a sort of teaching hospital for urban leaders. We think it makes sense given, human bodies are complex systems, so too are cities complex and emergent phenomenon. And so we're going to take some strides and steers from what they're up to in medicine and apply it to city building. Yeah, so I'm glad you asked this. Partnerships is extremely integral to what the Africa Urban Lab does. Without partners, our research is number one, less informed, and without partners, number two, our research will find a smaller audience and it won't be disseminated. So it's extremely important to get these partners on board, and I'm really heartened and encouraged that we've gotten off to a roaring start on the partnerships front, both here locally and then across the entire region. So locally, we have partnerships now with the State University of Zanzibar, SUZA, which I'm really excited about. This is the pride and joy of Zanzibar is their SUZA here, and we're really excited to get work done with them. We had a couple SUZA students, in fact, in our first cohort, and they did amazingly. The second local partner I want to highlight, and there are neighbors here in Fumba Town, is the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, IIT Madras. For those who don't know, IIT is basically the MIT of India, right? The most populous country on the planet, their best and brightest go to IIT, and IIT Madras Zanzibar is the first non-Indian IIT campus in history. And so this is a huge opportunity to get some really talented STEM talent, not just coming over from Chennai, but trained up here locally in Zanzibar, Tanzania, and East Africa. And cities don't just require master plans and good urban governance and good urban economic policies, they require to be built. And so it's a really complementary set of skills that AUL brings and that IIT Madras brings with their STEM skills. Beyond Zanzibar, we're partners on the mainland with RD University. RD is basically the really key marquee cities-focused university here in Tanzania. Most of their folks go on to become practitioner urban planners for either the national level or cities across the country. Beyond RD, we are partners with the University of Dar es Salaam, and then we're working on an MOU with the University of Dodoma. And then more broadly across the region, we're really excited about the partnership with Urban Action Lab at Makerere University. Urban Action Lab has submitted, I think it's 3 capstone projects that some of our students are going to be embedded with them over the next 5 months, so we'll deepen relationships with them. And then in Kenya, we are partners with the Institute for Development Studies at the University of Nairobi. And then in Addis, we have a partnership with Addis Ababa University, and then we're working with, one of our students comes from the Urban Center in Ethiopia, so we're going to work on a partnership with them. So again, that was a laundry list of partners, but it's really important to go over these because they help on two fronts. They help inform and make better our own research that's conducted at the lab, and they help with dissemination so that research doesn't collect dust on a shelf. It actually goes somewhere and makes a tangible difference in the world. Yeah, so I mean, one of the key partners, I would say two of the key partners involved is UN Habitat, and so they are the UN cities-focused and urbanization-focused body. They are probably, I would say, the best convener of everything cities around the globe, and a case in point is we just came back from speaking at the World Urban Forum, which was hosted in Cairo in October, and this was tens of thousands of people gathered in one place for a week talking about how we can solve some of the urban challenges facing our cities. So that's one, UN Habitat. We have an MOU with them. They're an hour flight away in Nairobi. We'll be getting some guest lecturers in from them and co-hosting convenings and whatnot. The other big partnership outside of the universities is the UCLG Africa, United Cities Local Government Africa. It's a network of local government authorities from across the continent. And one of the things we do at the lab, in addition to research and education, is trainings. And so we'll connect through the UCLG's network of local authorities with local governments needing some trainings in the aspects that the AUL specializes in. Yeah, so AUL's activities, we can break them down into three key things. One of them I mentioned is research, right? We have 4 research clusters. One is innovative urban governance, another is urbanization and industrialization, a third is urban expansion in the periphery, and that's our more spatial focused research cluster, and the fourth is cities, culture, and technology, right? Cities are places of openness and tolerance and cosmopolitanism, and they're places where social norms from the periphery and rural areas begin to transition into these more cosmopolitan norms within urban centers. So those are our 4 research clusters. In addition, the second activity is around training, which I mentioned. We're partnering with UCLG Africa, and a bunch of some of the students in our program are mayors, and they're now excited to tap some of our training modules that can be tailored to their own local cities, in particular in Ethiopia. And then the third is education, right? We just delivered our first professional diploma, and this is going to be expanded upon in the future to offer in 2026 a master's in urban development. So that's the education one. So 3 things: research, training, and education. Yeah, so the courses under the diploma, there are four modules. One is urban governance, one is urban planning, another is urban economics, and then the last is urban finance. And one of the things I should have mentioned is we really prioritize flexibility for the professional diploma. These people have full-time jobs, right? And we have professionals spanning from early career professionals just getting started, all the way up to mayors and deputy mayors and directors of national planning ministries. And so we couldn't ask these people, especially the senior ones, to take a year off work in order to come and train up. They have these really important jobs, but they also at the same time need to upskill. And so we purposely structured it to be very flexible, very modular. We packed a lot of information into 2 weeks of in-person teachings here in Zanzibar over the last 2 weeks. And so the first block of 2-week in-person training covered just now urban governance and urban planning. All the students will then go home and complete the capstone project remotely. The capstone project is this real-world, real organization applied work that each of the students has to complete before the end of the diploma. And then all the students come back in 5 months in April 2025 to complete the second block, and that block will be on urban economics and urban finance. And at the end of that block, they all present their capstone projects. So again, really flexible, really modular, and really focused on applied work, not so much theory, but really, really pragmatic and applied work. Yeah, so the 4 courses, we have some world-class lecturers from across the globe. So urban governance is taught by Dr. Patrick Lemson Hall. He's got teaching experience at New York University's Barron Institute of Urban Management. as well as more recently the OECD. He worked on their recent data set of African cities across the world that they just launched. In addition, we have Nuria Fortes. She's teaching the urban planning course. She and her partner Patrick really specialize in a strategic urban planning approach called urban expansion planning, which is a bare-bone planning framework that has proven to be a rigorous and impactful approach to urban planning. You don't need these bells and whistles and this Ferrari version of an urban plan to make a thriving city. You can approach it within the confines and financial constraints that many African towns and cities find themselves. Third, on urban economics, we're really excited to have the good folks at International Growth Center Cities That Work to come and teach the urban economics module. And then last but certainly not least, on the urban finance course, we have Astrid Haas, who formerly led the IGC Cities team and is now affiliated with many universities, but is based out of the University of Hong Kong, as well as Dr. Jeremy Gorlick, who's based at the University of Cape Town, but has helped many African cities across the continent issue their first municipal bonds, get their fiscal house in order at the local level. And so, again, balancing this fine balance between hardcore research and practical, implementable policy action. The highlight for me, I'm gonna say two. So the one of the highlights for me was we just had our goodbye celebration on Friday, 2 days ago. And one of the students came up to me and we were talking about how the last 2 weeks went. And I won't forget what he said. He said, "This was a revelation to me in my coursework when I was in my urban planning coursework. We barely touched the tools. It was just sort of textbook-based learning. And you guys integrated tools and textbook in this way that really, really worked. And this was great for me, because that's exactly what we set out to do as a lab, be this bridge between frontier research and practical, implementable policy change." So that was really heartening. The other thing I want to say is the highlight is one of the things we were nervous about as an admissions team was we purposely admitted a whole range of backgrounds, as I said, from early career, mid-career professionals with not a ton of experience, some of them just out of their bachelor's degree, to mayors, deputy mayors, directors of national planning ministries. So we had a whole range of expertise and skills. I was a bit nervous that that wouldn't work. There are some hierarchy expectations when you get leaders together with non-leaders, and that can disrupt the flow of discussion and whatnot. Some might feel they need to be overly deferential, and that strains the learning environment. But a highlight for me was that didn't happen. The mayors we had, the deputy mayors we had, the directors we had, were just as open and talkative as the early career mid-professionals, and I think that was a huge value proposition for this course, is they got to mix ideas from the experienced practitioners and urban leaders to those just fresh out of undergrad. So I thought, again, it was a highlight because I was nervous about taking this tack, but it worked out in the end. Yeah, so two things. So we just wrapped up the first part of the course, which is the in-person block 1, 2 modules, urban governance and urban planning. Now our students are all paired with their real-world projects, called these capstone projects, with real-world organizations that they're going to complete together in groups remotely over the next 5 months. So again, I think that's going to take some of the interesting discussions we saw in class, and it's going to further them applying what they learned to actual real-world projects. And I think that's going to just deepen both the learning of the students and then the relationships between the students, which is super important to inculcating this community of practice. So that's number one. The second thing I'm most excited about is, I think the Africa Urban Lab's location is very exciting to me, right? We are an urban lab. What is a laboratory? A laboratory tests out different solutions to problems and tries to come up and pinpoint those solutions. I think given our location in Town, which is this new town on the periphery of fast-growing Stonetown's growing at 4% per year. That means it's going to double in size in the next 17 years, adding 800,000 people to its ranks. It can't add those people downtown because downtown, a lot of it is declared a UNESCO heritage site, which makes it really difficult to build the needed housing. So they have to find these nodes on the urban periphery, and Town can serve as one of those nodes. And the other virtue of the location is Town is actually located in a special economic zone. And so we can literally, as a living urban lab, test out different innovative approaches to urban planning, land use regulations, zoning regulations right here at the lab, and our students can be exposed to those learnings, and we can disseminate the successes across a network of urban labs that we're now partners with. So that's the second thing I'm really excited about. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of work to get this diploma and the Africa Urban Lab up and running, and I want to say over the last 2 weeks, this was our first kick at the can. This is the first cohort of students ever for the lab. And so I just want to say I'm extremely grateful to both my team at the Africa Urban Lab. They've been phenomenal, and we've kind of worked day and night for the last year getting this ready. And then number two, I want to say I'm extremely grateful and have tons and amounts of gratitude for our students. They came here, they focused, they immersed themselves, and it was intensive for a purpose, and they did phenomenally. So I'm grateful to our team, I'm grateful to our students, and I'm just really excited to further build and grow this community of practice of urban professionals that we want to inculcate here at the lab and across the